When it comes to immigration policy, the past week has been nothing short of eventful. Both federal and state governments have rolled out policies that many see as a turning point, or, I guess depending on your perspective, a dangerous escalation in how the US handles undocumented immigrants. Today, we're diving into the details of these policies, starting with the federal Laken Riley Act, and then we'll be taking a look at Mississippi's highly controversial House Bill 1484. First up, let's talk about the Laken Riley Act, a bill recently passed in the U.S. House of Representatives named after Laken Riley. Laken Riley, a Georgia nursing student, was tragically killed in 2022 by an undocumented immigrant. The act is being pitched as a way to protect Americans by cracking down on crimes committed by undocumented individuals. At its core, this bill requires Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE as it's colloquially known, to detain undocumented immigrants who've been accused of theft-related crimes. With it being in related crimes, that also includes burglary, larceny, and similar offenses. On paper, sure, it may sound like a straightforward way to ensure accountability, but let's peel back the layers. Firstly, this bill passed with bipartisan support, 263 votes in favor and 158 votes against. This includes 46 Democrats who broke rank to support it, which is wonderful. Advocates of the bill argue that it's about quote-unquote public safety. They say if someone's in the country illegally and they're also breaking the law, they should be detained until their case is solved. Now this may sound simple enough, but some critics have a different take. These include immigration advocacy groups, legal experts, and even some economists that are raising red flags to this act. First, there's always the potential for racial profiling, and this is even seen already in the few days that it's been active. For example, a CNN article that I'll have below discusses the New Jersey mayor that states that his city is being, quote, unlawfully terrorized. ICE is raiding local businesses, and they are detaining undocumented residents as well as citizens. You've heard me right. They're also detaining actual US citizens, and they're not even producing a warrant. Among these, and the one that's growing more popular, is a detainee that happened to be a US military veteran. That's right, a military veteran who fought for the country was detained by ICE, and this was without producing a warrant. So, it's easy to say it's about those that commit crimes, but when you're just grabbing anybody that's brown, it seems that it goes beyond that. So yeah, as I was saying, the critics are arguing that this law is essentially encouraging law enforcement to disproportionately target communities of color. And then of course, as I said, economists are even also raising red flags, saying that there's also the question about cost. Implementing this bill is estimated to require an estimation of $26.9 billion in just this year alone. Now you're probably wondering where that money's coming from, and we could guess taxes or, taking government spending out of a, already allocated area and moving it to this, but this is a lot of money to be spending on essentially disproportionately detaining people of color. And of course, there's also the question of, let's say another US citizen is detained and they are wrongfully accused of being an immigrant, and let's say they can't even afford or don't even know how to access proper legal representation. What do we do there? In that case, it may not be clear, but one thing is clear. As I'm saying, this is not just about theft or even public safety for that matter. This is just a policy that at its face could redefine how we approach immigration enforcement for better or for worse, and so far it's looking like it's going to the worse. And now, as I mentioned previously, we're not just talking about policies that are affecting us at a federal level, we're also seeing some very controversial changes at the state level. For example, there's Mississippi and its House Bill 1484. And if you thought that the federal bill was bad enough, wait until you hear about this. Dubbed the Mississippi Illegal Alien Certified Bounty Hunter Program, this bill is creating a program where private citizens can essentially act as, you might have guessed it from the bill name, bounty hunters, locating and apprehending undocumented immigrants in exchange for financial rewards. Yeah, Mississippi is considering outsourcing immigration enforcement to just regular Joe Schmoes, offering them $1,000 for every undocumented person they detain and turn over for deportation. So if you thought that we're getting disproportionate, targeting of people of color by actual like ICE and actual, police officers, just wait till we get regular people who are being blinded by the opportunity for getting wealth. Yeah, they're going to be picking up anybody that they think looks brown enough for the opportunity of getting $1,000. Supporters of this bill are arguing that it's a cost-effective way to enforce immigration enforcement in a state with limited resources, but let's be honest, this is just going to open the door to chaos. I mean, let's think about it. What kind of oversight are these quote-unquote certified bounty hunters having? What's stopping them from going to the grocery store, grabbing some random dude just trying to get a meal for his family, and then detaining him and bringing him to the police officer? If that doesn't sound like the most easily abusable system, I don't know what is. And of course, legal experts are already predicting that if this bill passes, there's just going to be an avalanche of lawsuits. They point out that it's not only going to be ripe for civil rights violations, but this is obviously grossly unconstitutional. Immigration enforcement is really only supposed to be a federal responsibility, but definitely not something that you hand off to your neighbor down the street, and of course to any other untrained civilian that has that financial incentive to essentially hunt people down. On top of that, this policy could devastate immigrant communities by fostering an environment of fear and mistrust. And it's already bad enough that they feel that towards law enforcement, but I mean, if you're somebody in that situation where you may or may not be legal, how do you even go out of your own home when you don't know if the people at your work, people at your school, your church could be looking at you and just seeing a dollar sign over your head? That is insane. So really, when you step back and look at both of these policies side by side, you really start to see a very troubling pattern. The federal government is ramping up detention policies through ICE, while red states like Mississippi are taking things into their own hands, sometimes in ways which honestly all of this seems very dystopian. I mean, what does this say about us, like the US as a country? What does this say about how we value justice, fairness, humanity, and even just our fellow man? And let's not ignore the elephant in the room, which is money, of course. Because at the end of the day, much of this comes down to economics. Because, for example, the Mississippi Act, I don't think I mentioned this, but when they are detained, they are being sentenced to life. So what do you think life is? In these private prisons. So of course it's for money. The more people you can have in your private prison industry, of course the more benefits you're going to get if you own that prison. So, and of course, these prison owners are probably lobbying all of these policies to be pushed, like the Laken Riley Act, like the Mississippi Bounty Hunter Program, because why would you not? More people in detention facilities for life equals more money, equals more state resources, and of course all of this is under the guise of immigration enforcement, keeping the peace, keeping the safety, getting those stinky illegals out of the country. But really, who is benefiting here? Is it the average citizen? Is it you? Is it me? Or is it really corporations and individuals with a vested interest in keeping these broken systems alive in order to line their pockets? Now, the policies we discussed today really highlight a crossroad in America's approach to immigration. On one hand, supporters argue that these measures may protect citizens and uphold the law, but on the other hand, critics are warning of racial profiling, civil rights violations, and the broader moral cost of treating these people as numbers, as dollar signs, as, numbers in the detention system, and as targets for bounty hunters. So what do you think? Are these policies really necessary to make steps towards securing the country, or are they dangerous overreaches that undermine our values? And perhaps more importantly, what is the path forward? Should the US follow in the footsteps of other countries like those in the EU, where you have comprehensive immigration reform that focuses on not only integration, but also human rights? Or is there another way entirely? As always, the floor is yours. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep the conversation going. After all, immigration is more than just a policy debate. It's about people, communities, and most importantly, the kind of country we want to be.